Hey everybody, welcome back to Colony Drop, your favorite Gundam podcast. My name is Isaac.
My name is Brian, and this is a podcast where we talk about anything and everything related to the Mobile Suit Gundam franchise. From the mobile suits, to the music, to the movies, to the OVAs, to the manga, to the clothes, to the food. You name it, Isaac, we do it all.
That's right, Brian. We just enjoy Gundam so much that we would devote hours of our short lives to reading a Japanese manga that details intrigue inside 3. Isn't that right, Brian?
You know what? This manga today, listeners, is dense, but it's a fun treat, lore-wise, I think.
Oh, it's great. It's like, God, what would you even compare it to?
It's like if Isaac went to a dictator buffet and he didn't even pay full price to get in, and his eyes lit up as soon as they let him in, and he could just have one of everything on the menu.
Oh, and I was stuffed. I'm on plate number 6, and boy, is it tasty. Brian, what did we read?
So, listeners, today we are going to review the first 2 volumes out of 4 total volumes for the manga The Plot to Assassinate Gihren. It was released in August 2007 through January 2010. My understanding, Isaac, is the only way you can read this is it was scanlated, I believe, by a group called Anon. Don't think this was...
Who shall remain anonymous.
Yeah, their name is just Anon with like the A and like the slashes. Yeah, I mean, it's not hard to find. You just type it in Google and you can find it. I mean, Isaac, so far at least, we're 2 volumes into this. I think there has been one page Mobile Suit Battle. They are never going to release this in the United States. There's no way that anyone would buy it.
No, and that's totally fine, because the translation, the scanlation that was done, I think it's great. You really immerse yourself in it. I had no complaints about the translation when I was reading it.
Yeah, I thought it was very enjoyable. So the logline here, Isaac, is set during the 1-year war. Leopold Fieseler, a detective with Zeon Public Peace Department / Zeon Public Safety Department, based in Zum City inside 3, is charged with investigating terrorist attacks against Principality of Zeon government officials led by an anti-Zabi group called Valkyrie.
Yeah.
That's right on.
That's right. Yeah, listeners, this is Gundam intrigue. This is Gundam House of Cards meets a little bit of James Bond / Jason Bourne. It's noir, right, Brian? This is Gundam noir.
Yeah, it's like a mystery, like whodunit, but in reverse.
Right. If you like political thriller movies or, assassination plots, and of course there's always like the government involved and stuff like that, this is for you.
Yeah, and maybe something near and dear to your heart, Isaac, is this, no surprise, takes a lot of inspiration from what is referred to as the 20th July plot. And that was basically there was an attempt within Germany of some people during World War II to assassinate Hitler.
Yeah, unfortunately, they weren't successful.
That is true. I did pull the wiki paragraph on that. And so this is what the wiki says. The 20th July plot was a failed attempt to assassinate Adolf Hitler. The plotters were part of the German resistance, mainly composed of Wehrmacht officers. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. The leader of the conspiracy, Klaus von Stauffenberg, planned to kill Hitler by detonating an explosive hidden in a briefcase. However, due to the location of the bomb at the time of the detonation, the blast only dealt Hitler minor injuries. I believe his pants were singed, Isaac, and he got pink eye as a result, but he didn't die.
Pants on fire and pink eye. You heard it here. He doesn't wash his hands.
Yeah.
Not a hand washer.
And then after they tried to kill him, but it failed, they actually didn't know that they failed right away, and they attempted a coup. That also failed, and they ended up getting purged. So.
Yeah, we applaud their attempt, but you really had to kill the guy in order to pull off the coup and, assassinate the worst person in human history. But you can actually watch that played out in the movie Valkyrie with Tom Cruise. Actually a pretty good movie, which was, I think, the name of the operation they kind of used that Hitler signed off on that would actually help them do the coup. And Valkyrie appears as a name in this manga series, actually, so a bit of a wink and a nod. But yeah, this is very much an attempt by people in Zeon, who are Zeon, to take out Gihren during the final weeks of the 1-year war.
Yeah, basically final week. I think we start on December 26th. So really, you're dealing with the last 5-6 days here, really.
Yeah, no more than 2 weeks, I guess.
Yeah, and honestly, we were only 2 volumes into this, and I think only 2 days passed, and this thing is dense, Isaac. There's a lot going on here.
Yeah, a lot happens. We're really following like one guy, and I mean, he's going through his working day, and he works overtime.
It's 2 really bad days for Leo.
Yeah, we're walking through him for almost his whole working time and then afterwards, and a lot of things happen, Brian. So yeah, for our listeners who might not be too in depth or too familiar with the Universal Century for whatever reason, Gihren was not assassinated. At least not in some city and not by some shadowy organization, as we all know. He actually gets taken out by his sister, Kycilia, on the bridge of his ship. But this plot itself has so many tangled webs that it weaves as you read it. Just so many different parts of Zeon and the Principality and the government just become brought to light. It's such a treat if you're a Universal Century fan, even more so if you're a Zeon fan, just to kind of go into this story blind. It was so great, Brian. It was just amazing to hear everything that was happening in these final days of Zeon.
Yeah, I mean, you as a Zabi fan, this had to be like, it's like when the ice cream guy drives by, right? With playing the song.
Yeah, the pop goes the weasel. There he goes. Yeah. But yeah, Brian, did you want to give the readers a run, or the listeners, not the readers, the listeners a rundown of volumes 1 and 2?
I have it. It's a long one, Isaac. So we'll see how far we get before I tire out. I mean, I want to point out the difference between this summary and some of the other summaries that we've gone through. There were shows like Destiny and Victory Gundam where the summary was very long because things were just happening and not making any sense. This one, the summary's long because there's lots of crap happening, and I don't know what I can leave out, because if you leave out one conversation, the next 3 things don't make any sense.
Yeah. This is, all right, Brian already told you, right? There's almost no mobile suits in this. Like, I think the most we see of a mobile suit is like one putting out a fire.
Yes, I'm glad you caught that. The firefighter Zagok. I want someone to make a custom firefighter colored Zagok.
There's no battle happening or anything like that. We know the general timeline of the Universal Century towards the end of the 1 Year War. So this is a complete intrigue, people talking in rooms, people talking in cars, people talking on the sidewalk story. And you have to pay attention.
You do. And I think one thing that was really helpful was I think the first volume came with a nice character summary that had a bunch of people's pictures. Yeah. I kept referring back to that. That was very helpful. There are a lot of characters, a lot of which you don't know who they are, to open this. So if you are going to read this, I think you should have that handy.
All right, Brian, take us off. We're on the launch pad. Launch.
Investigation 1, Gihren Zabi assassination plot. We open with a Sele-like organization, and for those of you who don't know what Sele is, if you've never watched Neon Genesis Evangelion, there's a shadowy organization called Sele where they just talk in these sort of columnar, anonymous pillars with names. Also think of Captain America, was it Civil War? Or Winter Soldier? I think it's Winter Soldier. Anyway, there's a Sele-like organization that meets in this online chat room within Zeon known as Valkyrie, and they're plotting to assassinate Gihren Zabi. They meet in this chat room again, and they have code names, Isaac, based on Norse Valkyries, and they have no photos.
Of course. I mean, it's an anonymous organization, anonymous to their own members. They're all just working together towards their goals of an internal revolution, right, Brian?
Yeah, you got to have cool code names. I mean, I would make cool code names, right?
I wonder what the list of things they dropped was. Food, Aztec names, too hard to pronounce.
I mean, these names aren't easy. So their leader, I believe, is pronounced Rainleaf. Valkyrie has killed 7 important Zeon personnel so far via bombings as we open this story. The latest one is the day our story starts, December 26, 0079, noon. They are accelerating their plan to kill Gihren and take control of Zeon before the Federation wins or takes over Zeon. Our main character is Leopold Fieseler. He works at the Public Safety Office, and he's investigating the bombings. And then, interestingly, Isaac, his grandfather was a founder of Zeonic.
Wow. This guy's loaded, right?
You got to think so, right? Why is he even working?
I don't know. Maybe maybe that information has yet to be revealed.
He likes a challenge. Isaac, can you remind our listeners who Zeonic is?
All right. Zeonic is the major manufacturer of mobile suits. They won out in sort of the arms race with Zimond, who was specializing in mobile armors. So Zeonic makes almost every mobile suit you see in the entire 1 Year War on the side of Zeon, along with some other Zeon combat material. I'm not sure if they make Musais and some of the other fighter craft, but they definitely are part of it as far as creating Zeon's armaments and war arsenal for the 1 Year War.
Yeah, so Leopold, again, his bank account must be big, or at least someone in his family.
Yeah, maybe that's how he got the job.
Yeah, maybe. Investigation 2, Informant Elise Finnegan. Leo's friend Elise gives him a data disk full of the Valkyrie kill list that she obtained from Rigel von Moore's office. at the Capital Defense Department, which also has the Capital Defense Battalion, which we are told is around an 800-men army charged with defending Zum City, mostly officers and soldiers with a hard time returning to society due to injuries. Which is kind of odd, Isaac. We've seen this once before with Kelly Leisner. We're seeing it here again. We got some disabled people.
That's right. And I mean, I was thinking about that. That sort of made me did pause a little bit because I thought to myself, would Gihren and Daewon really want to be protected by guardians that had trouble adapting to society? Like, wouldn't like the elite of the elite be protecting them? But then again, I'm not sure. Maybe the Zabi arrogance is to such a level where they're totally fine with these guys protecting them. They don't need like a crack team,
I agree. I had a few thoughts on that. One, I mean, Gihren does have his elite guard, which we'll meet later on in this story. Mm-hmm. So maybe he feels he has extra protection.
Sure.
But then I also rationalized it because they do tell us later that Zeon is running out of people.
Right. You do definitely notice that in one important scene we'll talk about later.
And I guess, do you feel like if the Federation makes it to Zum City anyway, the war's over?
See, my thing with that is, based on what we know happened at the end of the 1 Year War, with Kycilia at least, it seemed like they knew if a Babaku falls, and Side 3 is really on the other side of a Babaku.
Yeah.
If you make a run for Granada, you have a chance. Because I think it's one thing if the Federation is taking colonies.
Yeah.
It's another thing if the Federation has to like land on the moon with a moon army essentially to try to take the city block by block.
Yeah.
So I think Granada was actually the fallback, and the war wouldn't technically be over because Kycilia didn't think it was over at least.
That's true. That was a very interesting conversation, later on.
Yeah.
So the Capital Defense Battalion, they have a very specific color scheme, Isaac, that we do not see in Zeon. They have white and blue mobile suits.
So I had sort of mixed feelings about it. The blue I felt wasn't very Zeonic at all.
Right.
I would have almost liked a white or a black or a green even. But I think the pure white has a really good look to it. I even like the custom sort of heads that they have on the Zakus, right? They got like this cool sort of Darth Vader down to the neck style armor flaps.
Yeah, they call them the Fritz helms, I believe. So it's the Zaku. It's the same Zaku that we saw in 0080, which I believe is the Zaku Kai or the Zaku FZ, whatever you want to call it. Which normally I don't think you like, right? But I think with this other helm, it looks a little better.
Yeah, it's much better now. So yeah, it wins me over, the primary color at least. So yeah, I give it a big thumbs up.
So here we meet our first member of Valkyrie. Or at least we understand who the first known member of Valkyrie is from our reader perspective.
Right.
Brigadier General Henri Fieseler. He is the leader of the Capital Defense Battalion. He is also the Valkyrie member known as Herfioter. I hope I'm saying that right. Herfioter?
Yeah, we'll go with it. We're doing the best we can with these Norse names.
Elise, again, Leo's friend, she gives the disc to Leo so that he can turn it into his superiors without the risk of demotion like her, who would probably get demoted if she turned it in. Leo's old military instructor, Lance Garfield, then drives by. This guy is missing an arm, and he lost it in Odessa, Isaac, but he's now on the Capital Defense Battalion under Brigadier General Henri. We also find out that he is also a member of Valkyrie, and his Valkyrie name is Hrist. Hrist. Isaac, one last thing about the injury of the pilots. Do we think that this is realistic? I feel like if you get hurt in a mobile suit, you're pretty much dead. Or if you get hurt in a capital ship, you're pretty much dead in space. Do we think there would be a lot of people that have like partial injuries?
It doesn't seem like there is a lot, though, because to my knowledge, there's only two that I can count, right? We got like Kelly Leisner, who kind of got cooked. If anything, his is kind of more believable than this guy, right? Because it's one thing if like the outside of your mobile suit cooks, because your arm's near one side, and then that's why he kind of lost his arm.
Sure.
But this guy, like, I literally wrote in my notes, another Kelly Leisner. Because he's one-armed. So I'm very curious what explosion happened. Was he on Earth when this happened?
Yeah, they said he lost it in Odessa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense than in space. Because I imagine in space, you're gone.
Yeah, I agree.
But on Earth, if there's an explosion to your side, you can kind of, limp away.
Right.
You'll be able to still breathe.
I feel like space battle mortality is all or nothing.
Yeah. Whatever happens in space with those Minovsky reactors, just the most indirect hit just sets them off.
Let's all remember Captain Burning. Operation Stardust is...
God, he lived so long with a damaged mobile suit. Like, that's the longest record for a damaged mobile suit. Why is there nothing like sensor-wise that told him he was in trouble? But okay, that's a different episode.
maybe the sensor was broken.
Yeah, that's what got hit.
So Leo, after meeting Lance, he thinks to himself that he's heard the name Rainleaf before, but he can't remember where. And then we flash to somewhere in like a Batcave-esque room. Someone unseen kills a man sitting in a chair, looking at the monitors in a Valkyrie meeting by shooting him in the head. That man that was killed was named Mario Antonescu. He was a scientist from Zeonic with ties to Granada. He was also the Valkyrie member known as Gondor. So we've now sort of met 3 Valkyrie members, and one of them has just died. So we have our first intrigue, Isaac. Trouble is afoot in Valkyrie. They are not
Who's doing it?
quite as anonymous as perhaps they once thought. Investigation number 3, Capital Defense Battalion summary. Leo then receives a mysterious letter out of nowhere. It's wax sealed with the Valkyrie symbol. Uh-oh. There's a lot of uh-oh moments in this, Isaac, where you're like, uh-oh, someone knows more information than we do, and they're up to no good.
Yeah, right?
The next investigation 4, report from Judgment. Rainleaf tells the Valkyrie members that 1, Gondor, aka Mario Antonescu, is dead by an unknown assailant, and, number 2, Rainleaf has located Gihren to be in Zum City, which apparently was previously unknown since the Battle of Odessa, which I guess kind of makes sense that, they wouldn't publicize where Gihren is, but Zum City is kind of, like, obvious? Is that kind of, like, silly? Like, well, I guess he's in the capital.
Yeah. Where else would he be? Is my question, right? Granada's Kycilia's turf, so he'd never go there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Zum City's got to be the safest place, right?
Yeah, I'd hope so.
Yeah.
Maybe a Bawaku, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess it'd be close.
Rainleaf reveals they will attack Gihren on December 31st at a parade intended to boost morale and honor Dozel's life, because at this point, Solomon has already occurred and Dozel is dead, although the Zeon public has not been told that yet, which I thought was interesting, Isaac.
Well, that's very much a dictatorship, right? They really want to control the bad news and kind of figure out how, if at all, to deliver it to the common people.
That was quite some bad news.
Yeah.
Leo has the letter analyzed, but it has no fingerprints other than his and the mail carrier, and no sorting marks. It includes a paper with letters and the name David Schiller on it, and is signed by Rainleaf. Investigation report number 5, David Schiller. On Kycilia's Gwazine, named the Guarib, Twanning delivers Kycilia a list of fleets going to Bawaku. Kycilia then says she will put aside her rivalry with Gihren, since the fate of the nation is at stake. But Twanning goes back to Bawaku. He's like, I don't know why he had to come all this way, Isaac, to hand deliver something to Kycilia. That was a little strange. Did you think that was strange? What was he doing there? That was a long way to go.
Very Zeon. It also kind of gives a sort of a wink for the readers, because look, it's a character we recognize later on, because Twanning will definitely show up at Bawaku in the series itself, and he doesn't make it.
So spoiler. Kycilia then says she has to withdraw to Granada after she's told of Mario's murder. She says they are making their move, I assume she's thinking it is the elite guard, and she curses Gihren. Now, I want to talk about Gwazines here, Isaac, because we've talked about Gwazines before. Boy. And I looked up, because I was like, my initial thought was the Guarib is a terrible name. I mean, all Gwazine names are pretty bad, but Guarib
yeah, I've yet to meet a good one. There's only one that's a good one, right? And that's the Great Dagwin.
The Great Dagwin. That's the best name by far. So I looked it up, Isaac, and listeners, there's a great thread on Mecha Talk, those forums I often mention, from 2015, that talked about the number people are trying to figure out how many Gwazines exist. And
we can't.
the consensus is that there seem to be around 8 to 12. That sounds like a reasonable number. And there's a great discussion from users Gelgu Jaeger, Toys Dream, who I believe is Mark Simmons, the guy who I think was the main contributor behind the Gundam, the official guide, and another person named Myth Searcher. All right, ready, Isaac? There's one, the Great Dagwin. This was destroyed by the solar ray. Then there's the Guamel, which apparently was a Gwazine that broke up during a re-entry test.
Oh God.
Then you have the actual the one that named the line, the Gwazine, but that was likely destroyed during a Bawaku.
Sure.
Then you have the Guaron, or the Gihren, which was Dozel's ship that was obviously sunk during Solomon.
And he took off.
Then you have the Gwazine, which was Giren's ship, which Delaz escapes with from a Bawaku, and then he uses it as his own ship in 0083.
Oh, that was Giren's.
Yeah, isn't that cool? I didn't realize that,
wow.
But I guess that makes sense.
That makes perfect. Yeah, I was about to say that makes perfect sense because, as listeners will know, Brian clearly pointed out to us that at the time of Bawaku, Delaz was a colonel. He only promoted himself later on after the war was over.
It's a good time. I think I'm just gonna promote myself.
Yeah. he did a show of hands around the room if everyone was okay with it.
And if you've watched 0083, you know that the Gwazine was destroyed by Shima Garahao. Then we have the Guarib, Isaac, which is Kycilia's ship, which was also sunk during a Bawaku. Then apparently we have the Guaban and the Gwazan, which escaped to Axis from a Bawaku. They did not sink, and they may or may not have been used to build the new Guanban and Guadon classes by Neo Zeon. by Hamon's Neo Zeon.
Of course.
Yes. Then, this was one I did not know about. There was one called the Oseram. It escaped Baoku only because Char escorted it out of Baoku in his Gelgoog after he had lost the Zeong. That Gwazine was carrying Zena and Maneva Zabi to Axis, Isaac. That apparently is detailed in Char's deleted affair.
Impressive. It gets a special name, not even a G.
Yeah, no G's. Actually, the rest of these do not have G's.
There's more?
Yeah, there's one that just appears, as far as I can tell, simply appears on a list of Zeon fleets. It's called the Zwammel. The captain was Captain Fosyth, but I can't find any info on the Zwammel. And then there's also rumors that the guy who designed the nerve gas and oversaw construction of the solar ray and the guy who blamed Shima, well, his name was Asakura. Remember that guy, Isaac?
Yeah.
He may have fled in Baoku in one, so I think he may have had his own Gwazine.
That guy gets all the breaks.
He does.
Right?
He's still alive. He's still alive.
He catches all the breaks.
This dude is the biggest mass murderer of the 1 year war. Someone needs to hunt that guy down.
Oh my god. He even left on like the best ship.
He's like, screw you guys, I'm out. And then on that forum, these guys do a lot of investigative work, and they believe that there's possibly 3 more in background shots, which kind of gets you up to your 8 to 12 number. So that's how many Gwazines are out there, Isaac. And like you said, Great Degwin is still really the only good name in that whole bunch.
Now that I think about it. Oh, never mind. I was about to ask a dumb question. Did the Great Degwin survive?
No.
But no, we know exactly what happened to the Great Degwin.
People don't even say that one was sunk. They just say it was vaporized.
Yeah. There's not even debris. There's no debris.
There's not enough.
Not a single bolt is left.
So Leo finds out that David Schiller was an investigator in the same public safety office that he works in before Leo started. And David was investigating the last attempt on Giren's life, which apparently took place in December of 0078, so basically 1 year prior. David's family was from an anti-Zabi faction, and after his investigation, a bunch of anti-Zabi supporters were, I'll say, they were vanished, Isaac. They were, were never heard from again.
They relocated.
Oh, yeah. Leo finds out that David was working with the current chief, Billy Morgan, who's Leo's current boss. So here's another uh-oh moment. Uh-oh. David's not around anymore, and he worked with Leo's current boss, so that's not a good sign.
Nope.
Leo goes into the archives to look for info on David, and that's where he remembers where he heard Rainleaf. He watches an interrogation clip where the military is interrogating someone instead of public safety personnel. So again, another uh-oh moment. Why is the military here?
Right.
They then inject that subject with something to keep them awake. Where have we seen that before, Isaac?
In lots of situations.
He's got the Ginias one, and I believe we just had one not too long ago in another show, but I don't remember what it was. It's Thunderbolt, right?
Well, Living Dead Richmond?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Oh, they did so much stuff to those guys.
Yeah, that's true.
They took off arms to make them better pilots. But yeah, I'm glad to see that Ginias juice is still going around, being very useful.
That's what we should call it. It doesn't have an official name, so I propose...
No, Ginias juice?
Ginias juice is great. Let's go with that.
Ginias gin or something like that. Yeah, no, Ginias juice sounds better. But here's where listeners will clearly notice something, readers, I guess, would clearly notice something that shows the lack of manpower here at the Public Safety Department or Ministry of Public Peace. A lot of empty desks, a lot of empty cubicles. There are not a ton of people left around to do a lot of day-to-day jobs. I assume most of them are dead or were pushed into the military and have died as well.
That's a great point. And if you think about it, Leo's only here, like he did try to go to the military, but he basically sucked as a mobile suit pilot, and so Lance failed him out of the academy. Yeah.
God, how bad was he? We're like, they'd rather send in the teenagers than send him in, you know?
He must have been pretty bad.
Yeah.
Just crashing his Zaku into asteroids. And then on that clip that Leo is watching, that person says part of the name Rainleaf. After that, Kycilia and Elise arrive, and then we hit the next chapter, Chapter 6, Principality Public Safety Department. General Henri is taking an interest in Leo's work, but Lance, who is friends with General Henri, he tells him that, you know what, Leo was a bad student, but you can see him coming up soon at the Officers Club, General Henri. Leo is preparing his findings to tell Kycilia, Elise, his chief, Billy Morgan, and his director, Barry Edmond. And then we get to Chapter 7, Attempted Assassination of Commander. Leo reveals to those 4 people the 4 initials on the letter he received that was with the wax seal for Valkyrie were the initials of the 4 ringleaders of the prior Gihren assassination attempt last year. And interestingly, Isaac, the public was never told that David was assigned to this case. So Leo isn't sure that this is not a trap. He can only basically conclude at this point that the person who sent him the letter knows that David was on the case, and he knows that Leo is on the case. He asks to see the classified files on the case, and the director, Barry, says that he will put in a request, which I was like, uh-oh, bureaucracy at this time, Isaac?
There's not a lot of time left.
At this point, Isaac, I knew where this was going, and it all kind of started falling into place for me. This, to me, is Gundam Death Note.
Wow. Gundam Death Note. Yeah, Death Note, if you think about it, I mean, people kind of get blindsided by all the, the actual magic and all that of the note and demon and all that. But a lot of it was police procedural and bureaucracy and, like, coordination between, like, other countries' law enforcement.
Yeah, and a lot of it, it was this, like, L was, I can only conclude this, I can only conclude that, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
That's what this is, and it makes perfect sense. Death Note, I think, aired 2006, 2007. This came out in 2010. It takes a few years to develop. My headcanon is that the author, Arc Performance, he wanted to do his Death Note version of Gundam.
I love it. He wanted a cerebral crime drama.
Yes, Leo is our L, and no surprise, his name starts with an L.
Of course, even the hair.
Yep. Just saying.
hair's a little similar, a little messy.
There you go. General Henri calls Lance, who's overseeing some Zaku Kais with the Fritz helms, and Henri tells him the name of 2 traitors. Lance says he will change, and Isaac, this is like a very Nazi Germany line. Lance says, I will change the fatherland to the way it should be. That was another uh-oh moment for me. Oh, boy.
Yeah. I wonder if he's involved.
Yeah. Chief Billy finds Leo and asks him to follow him. And then in the next chapter 8, he covertly lets Leo into the classified archives for 2 hours. And you're thinking, wow, he's really putting his life on the line. Chief Billy must be a good guy.
Right.
Maybe not so here in a minute. But before that, we get to see a character I did not expect to show up, Isaac. At Zeon Parliament, Prime Minister Darcia Baharo admits to his colleague Oleg that Degwin wants peace.
Yeah, Darcia is there. Darcia, who we saw in that other manga, right?
Yeah, and he was in he was in the original series, but he didn't have like a huge speaking part or anything. So we're getting a lot on this guy.
Peace movement was happening pretty early. Well, kind of late in the war, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, Oleg apparently was a former co-worker of Gihren, and he doubts that Darcia and Degwin are enough to stop Gihren, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, really highlights how little power Degwin has now and how much Giren's really running the show.
He makes an interesting comment. He wishes that he would have risked his position that time at Mahal, which I can only assume is referring to the conversion of the colony Mahal into the solar ray.
Right.
It's kind of ironic. Is he going to tell the Federation when he gets there, by the way, Giren's making a colony laser?
I'd hope he wouldn't mention it just so that it's sort of a card they can keep in their back pocket. But I'd imagine, he regrets not speaking up about so many people losing their homes. Yeah,
it definitely was a dark day for Zeon. And he has a very philosophical perspective on Zeon here, Isaac. He says there is a problem with Zeon's government because the masses are satisfied enough to not be interested, and those that are fighting the Zabis are content only to lightly criticize rather than truly fight back. Yeah, it looks like Zeon's or the Zabis, I should say, are very smart with how they sort of go after their opposition. They just sort of appoint them to positions of power, and then that opposition now becomes loyal to them. They point out how they did this with, like, media, how they did this with some other politician. The Zabis are very clever. Yeah, they've pacified everyone. It's maybe the most effective way of staying in power. Yeah, also, Darcio, this really interesting, something he said. He pointed out how in Zeon, they're essentially a constitutional monarchy because he says the people elect their members. So that's why they elect their representatives to parliament. So that's why they're more free than the Federation. But at the same time, they're completely under the monarchy of the Zabis. Right. So it's somewhat the illusion of democracy. Right. And we see that in the real world from time to time. Absolutely, yeah. Sometimes here. Yeah. So back at the classified archives, Leo starts finding all this crap, like in rapid succession. He starts finding potential tampering by Rainleaf in Zeon politics, back all the way starting in UC 0052, when he apparently blocked Zeon Zum Daikun from migrating to Side 3. In 0053, when Daikun became the prime minister. In 0058, something happened on the moon. In a dismissal and a purge of Daikun faction members in 0065. And he was even suspected of assassinating Sasoro in 0068, Isaac. I thought it was cool we got a
Wow.
Sasuro name drop. No one ever talks about Sasuro.
Yeah, it's also very Kycilia to put the blame on someone else, or at least some of the evidence that the
Could
blame
be.
should be someone else.
Could be. Leo thinks it's odd, though, that Rainleaf changes from anti-Daikun to anti-Zabi, but there's too much to read, and he's not going to have enough time to read it all. He does, however, find a promising data disk, but the data on it was deleted by David. And now he starts to believe that Rainleaf must have a supporter in the public safety department, who at this time he thinks is David. But then Isaac, Chief Billy, the same guy who led him into the room and said, you know what, Leo, you got 2 hours, do what you want. Chief Billy bursts in with police and arrests Leo for attempted leakage of classified info and breaking and entering of a government facility.
It's a trap.
Exactly. You know, the trap card has been played, and the chief played him all along.
We found him breaking the law. Look.
Oh, look, how did he get in here? Arrest this man.
Look, he's a criminal.
Jesus, get him out of here. So now I don't
It's
know
a good
what to
thing we
think.
stopped by.
We came all the way down to the classified archives. Chapter 9, Solomon Notice. It is now December 27th. Gihren has finally decided to inform the Zeon public that Solomon has fallen. He's giving his Solomon speech, which I found a huge contrast because at the same time Gihren is pumping up the people, Darsha is getting ready to leave for the peace agreement.
It's like poetry. They rhyme.
And maybe more interestingly, Darsha tells Oleg that Kycilia doesn't think the peace agreement will work, but she's good with it if Degwin is. So I didn't realize that Kycilia was just like, that's great, that's cool, let's try it.
Well, number one, she's always been Dag's little princess, right?
That's true. That's fair.
Number two, I think she'd be happy with any peace agreement as long as the Zabi stay in power, right?
Yeah, I mean, it preserves their life, I suppose, and their territory, at least in theory.
Yeah. God, I wonder if Gihren would have been okay with it.
That's interesting you asked that, because the next thing Darsha says is he says that we lost the future when we lost Garma.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? What if all of these Zabi's survived? Who would come out on top?
Wow.
Where does Dozel fit in? Would Garma really take control? Like, how does any of them get past the Gihren-Kycilia rivalry?
Well, Dozel very much seemed to be sort of Giren's pawn. But, I mean, Giren's the oldest. He can't live forever, just like Dagwin can't live forever.
Yeah.
So, in a world where Dagwin goes, right?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Because he's old. He's got a foot in the grave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gihren eventually goes. I think Darcia was really meaning that as Garma being the youngest guy, clearly the most sort of heroic, the poster child, even personally, like in the scenes we saw with him in Origin, and he just generally seemed like a better person than the rest of them, right?
Oh, yeah, and Degwin liked him the most, too.
Right. He was the one that had the most heart. So I can absolutely see Darcia putting more faith into him. He's someone who, especially with Darcia and I guess the other politicians, could kind of mold towards having a softer, monarchy system, one that was less oppressive and a bit more, maybe for the people, brighter days rather than iron fists like Gihren does.
Right. In that scenario, Isaac, which Zabi would you ally with?
Are you texting me personally?
Yeah, you personally. Where does your allegiance lie? Assuming they're all alive and Degwin drops the bucket.
Oh, man. I wasn't so low to Dagwin. I never really thought about it.
My vote is Kycilia.
Definitely not Dozel. Yeah, Kycilia is the most cerebral. Yeah, it's hard not to go with Kycilia.
Yeah.
Just because of the brains. And yeah, the only thing is, if you go with Kycilia, you're automatically against Delaz.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I do think that this manga certainly paints Kycilia as the most well-rounded and maybe smartest Zabi.
Yeah, but of course you have to ask yourself, how come she's not the one in power?
True.
Gihren might be smarter.
Darsha, he's also getting a lot of development here, Isaac, and he basically is just painted as a guy who's just resigned that everything is messed up, and he's just fed up with Gihren.
Yeah, I don't blame him, though. For all I know, he was the one that told Dagwin we should go for peace.
Could be, yeah. Yeah, I like him. He's a good character. I like that he's popping up.
Yeah, every time I see this character, it's great.
And again, I think this goes back to what we were talking about in the other manga, that this is a good lore add, right? It doesn't really change too much, but it adds to what was already there, in a meaningful way.
It's dessert. It's dessert after the 1 year war main course.
And Darsha, before he heads off, Oleg asks about Maharaja Karn, so we get a Karn family name drop.
Name drop. Yep, big guy.
But I laughed, Isaac, because Darsha was like, yeah, but he won't leave Granada. In my mind, I was like, yeah, it's probably because that dude's smart. He sees the writing on the wall. He sees what's coming. He's like, I'm not leaving.
I'm not going to the battlefield.
Hell no. A Balaku? Why would I go there?
Probably told them to ship his daughter out to Granada so they can be ready to take off if things look bad.
Oh, the Federation's coming for you? Yeah, I'll stay over here where they can't get me. Hrist, or Lance, makes a Valkyrie call, wanting to know what the two traitors' crimes are. But Rainleaf says, I can't tell you without giving it away to those traitors. Chris then says he will trust in Rainleaf as long as his master, Firefighter, who we know as Henri, does. Chris then says he is the sword of the Valkyrie, having killed the 7 targets. So Lance is, he's quite the beast, Isaac, and he could turn on the theatrics when he can.
He knows what to do. You gotta... You gotta hand it to him, right, Brian?
Oh, you're not the first person to make a hand joke about this guy.
Yeah, I guess not.
Chapter 10, a new crime. So given now if you're Leo, right, the chief has now betrayed you. Now he's thinking that the director knew the disc was deleted, and perhaps even David now deleted it under duress instead of really being an ally. And then suddenly Leo's coworker rescues him by bribing the guard with opera tickets for his mom, which no security system can defeat. You can't defeat a bribe.
As we find out later, though, these opera tickets are very hard to get.
They are very, very hard to get.
Opera's huge in Zeon.
This coworker that helps him out, I can't remember his name, but he's been suspicious of the chief and the director since they got promoted while David disappeared, which that's a reasonable thing to be suspicious about. Smart coworker.
Right.
Did you notice, Isaac, that the coworker has a battle of loomed lighter, which I thought was really cool. They should probably sell it. Maybe they do sell it.
God, no, I didn't. That was so cool.
Yeah,
they must have been selling those on every street corner after the battle.
Yeah, probably. It's like a Zippo, but it's got Battle of Loom logos on it, so that's kind of neat. He gives Leo a magic door decoder unlocker thing that you see in all kinds of movies where you just put the decoder thing on the door and it
it knows what to do.
Those things are magic, Isaac.
It's a Minovsky encryption breaker.
It's funny that they will lock their doors, but they won't lock their Gundams. So, and he also gives them a gun. He tells them, hey, go give this gun to Monty, who is, I think, the guy we saw before who's analyzing the disc. But the guy who got bribed, he overhears this, and he's still in the background here. He's going to come back later. We cut to the director's office where the chief and the director, so Billy and Barry, they are planning to keep Leo alive because they want to use him to get Zeonic to the bargaining table when they come to power. And so now I believe, Isaac, are we to infer that they are both part of Valkyrie, but they're sort of doing their own thing because they're referring to coming to power, which can only be referring to the Valkyrie plot. And we must assume that they are the 2 traitors that Rainleaf is talking about. But they are also now truly establishing that they want to be in power rather than just taking out the zombies. Does that shade your feelings about Valkyrie differently?
It's an organization made up of anonymous members. So to an extent, it'll always be pretty decentralized. I'm not that surprised this happened. And in any conspiracy, the people that are involved, they're going to be pretty quick to conspire against each other because they're conspirators.
That's true. They've already done it once. Why not just do it again?
Yeah. It's like kind of like traitors. Like no one should be surprised if a traitor betrays them, right?
You're just shocked, like,
right, like they're their MO. So I wasn't too surprised at this. I was like, oh, okay, there would be cells within a rebel cell. So
especially if they found out who each other was, right? Because they haven't really clarified if they know who each other really are in real life, right?
I would be surprised if they all know, but if you run into somebody, you'd be, oh, by the way.
Do you think they say something like they have a code word, like Hail Hydra, when they walk by each other?
Like, what would they say?
Ride of the Valkyrie.
Yeah, Flight of the Valkyrie. I wouldn't be surprised. Secret handshake, something like that.
I like it. The director seems to be bothered about what happened to David, which is a little interesting. The chief thinks that's pathetic, though. So they're together, but they're not really completely on the same page. Something bad must have happened to David. The director wants out after this is done. He's even offered to go to Side 6 if he can get away. They are, however, worried about who sent the package to Leo with the seal, because they said whoever did must know the truth about what happened to David. Then we get this, the chief says, well, the people that were involved with David, those are different than the Valkyrie people, although Rainleaf is the only member of both. And there are not many people left alive who know about David. There's Rainleaf, them two, and David. And the director, apparently, he's shocked. He didn't even know that David was alive. And we can't really get much more reaction than that because then their office explodes, Isaac, and they both die in fire.
Wow. Yep, the whole thing goes. And it was in the package they just got.
Chapter 11, Giren's Elite Guard. So here's where we see the firefighters of Gok putting out the flames. I loved that. I have to search if someone has made a custom firefighter colored Zagok. That's fantastic. If anyone out there knows, send it to me.
It was cool to see, but it did raise some questions because they're sending out Ogus into combat, but they don't want to field strip the Zagok and strap some weapons on it for space combat. Come on.
I knew you were going to be concerned about resource usage.
Yeah. But then again, I do have to remember this is the capital. So the
Sure.
rules are a little different. So maybe under no circumstances are we going to diminish our ability to fight fire inside our own capital.
Yeah, it's an important building, so I'll give it to him. Mobile suits are probably pretty good at fighting fires too. So
Yeah.
Leo tries to get out of his cell with his magic unlocker thing, but then the power goes out and he's stuck. We then cut to Kycilia, who I believe is Giren's like private secretary, right?
She's up there in terms of like intel administration, it seems.
Yes, she has Giren's ear, so to speak. She is getting a report from the Capital Defense Battalion, and the report is telling her that their handicaps are having a negative impact on their performance. And as such, she says, well, if they can't do it, then I'm going to assign the elite guard to handle the ceremony on the 31st. Which, Henri is really trying to have his people involved so that they can try to assassinate Gihren.
Of course.
Then, the captain of the elite guard, Lieutenant Colonel Eric Mansfield, comes to see Kycilia. And with him is his subordinate, Phileas Stream, who's basically like a young woman pilot. He's headed out to Abaku, but he offers to leave Phileas and a third of his guard. Before he goes, though, he warns them not to underestimate the Capital Defense Battalion since they are led by Henri Schlesser, and he believes that they might even be a hidden ace unit. Which it basically means, I took that to mean as a unit that is very good, but sort of hiding their strength.
Yeah, which absolutely makes sense if this is made up of nothing but veterans,
Exactly. They all survived war, so they've all seen war. They're not like, to your point, they're not like the kids being sent out in the Ogus. Jesus Christ.
Right.
It's so terrible.
Not only that, but they look like they've been given like the cream of the crop in terms of weapons.
Right, that new Zaku is really good.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they're fudging their numbers, so to speak, with their weapons handling.
Mansfield sees that right away, but the captain, Rigel von Mohr, he disagrees. But Mansfield leaves, suspicious of Rigel. He says, it's impossible for a genius to change the plans thought up by another genius, even if you see a good opportunity. And I believe he's implying that he's now suspicious of either Rigel or Kycilia of purposely underestimating the Capital Defense Battalion. Is that how you took that?
Sort of. I'm still very much in the fog, but yeah, generally along those lines, that's kind of what I thought. They know other people know.
Yeah.
But they can't, there's not much they can do about what's rolling out because everyone's sort of keeping their cards up to an extent.
And just so everyone's aware, Eric Mansfield is one of the best Zeon aces. I think he was like 4th on the list. I believe he has survived Abaku, Isaac. I don't think he died. And his master grade Zaku actually just went up for order. His Zaku is a white and black color scheme. I think it looks excellent.
It looks incredible. Amazing.
He also has a cool logo. It has a griffin. Did you see that one? It's the Zeon, I think, home defense logo, or maybe it's even his personal logo.
I think so.
Thought that was neat.
Yeah.
At the very end of this chapter, Leo's door decoder finally works. He gets out, only to be face to face with the guy that was bribed. Leo then tackles him. In chapter 12, to try to get out. There's a flurry. I think they're punching each other. And then we cut to maybe one of the more interesting scenes in the manga, Isaac, as you alluded to, the Zeon Royal Opera House.
Yeah. This is a great scene.
General Brigadier Henri meets a guy named Lautrec, who is a major general and appears to be Henri's commanding officer. Or at least that's how I took that.
Yeah, it seemed very much on paper he was in command, but
yes.
not in the way that really mattered. He's an armed show general.
He perhaps likes to just watch opera and eat.
That's why he wanted the position, literally.
Henri tells him that he's crossed the Rubicon, so therefore we know that Lautrec is sort of somewhat in the know about Valkyrie. And he says basically that he's going to stay out of it. He's not going to join in, and he's going to let Henri do what he wants. And he says Gihren has a problem. He's never thought of them as useful, and believes that that's Giren's weak point. I like that weak point for Gihren, by the way. Blinded by his own fervor, view of the world. Probably like most authoritarians, I would imagine.
Yeah, and we definitely see that towards the end. I mean, Gihren didn't even think he was going to get killed by Kycilia when she had a gun in her hand.
Yeah, why would you let her have a gun? Or why would you let her on the bridge?
Well, the overconfidence.
Then Makuve, of all people, then just takes like a stray insult, Isaac. I loved this. I thought this was hilarious. Lautrec just takes a shot at Makuve. He's not even there. He's like, they appointed a bureaucrat as a commander and they lost Odessa.
They are running out of officers, so yeah, I thought that was really interesting explaining why Makuve was there.
Yeah, but then he also just admits that he's the same as Makuve. He's like, yeah, I'm no better. I just collect a paycheck as he's watching the opera. Like, at least this guy is pretty self-aware.
Yeah, something interesting he said, though, was that Makuve was the one behind Zeon's United Maintenance Plan, which standardized all their parts and made it easier to swap replacements and stuff like that, and led to the creation of like the Zakukai.
I believe the UMP also led to that machine gun that you like, right? What is it, the
Oh yeah,
MP80
what
or
was it?
something like that?
It's like the 80 millimeter or something like
Yeah,
that.
something like that. The one that the Zaku Kai uses.
Yeah.
Then Degman shows up. Henry is surprised to see him. And then we get this grand analogy that Lautrec makes, which he explains how the theater that they're in is like a mini version of the Principality. The commoners are on the floor, and then the nobles are in the boxes, with the better boxes nearer the Zabis in the center, the more important you are.
Right.
And it centers on the Toto family, who adopted a kid who we if you've seen Double Zeta, you know it's Glemmy.
That's him.
Apparently they adopted Glemmy while being almost in financial ruin, and then, miraculously, their standing improved. They got closer, and as a result, Glemmy is rumored to be Giren's illegitimate child, which I believe that comes up in Double Zeta a little bit as well. It's been a while since I've watched Double Zeta, but...
It comes up right when Haman Karn does not want it to come up.
Yeah.
We'll just say that.
I read this in the wiki that some theorize a connection between Glemmy and the Zabis, primarily Gihren, who has speculated that Glemmy was either his illegitimate son or a literal clone. I guess there's notes, Double Zeta staff, in Animedia's Gundam Double Zeta Part 2 staff book. The staff said that Glemmy is not a clone, but he's a test tube baby resulting from the insemination of a new type woman's egg with Gihren Zabi's sperm.
That is so Gihren. I totally applaud it. I thought it was going to be like, I don't know, some woman in the Toto side, like they had a romance or something, but they weren't married, so they couldn't really announce it. But the idea that it was absolutely a new type idea from, Master Race Gihren. Of course he would do something like that. So that's even better than what I thought.
Yeah, and I like that he didn't even do it himself. He didn't get his hands dirty. That, like you said, that's very Gihren.
Right, yeah. He just sent him a sample.
Like, I don't have time.
Take this Kleenex.
We also hear about some other seats. 3 box seats days ago, apparently belonging to the Sahalan family, went away.
There they are. My favorite people.
Way to go, Ginias.
We knew their family had power, so here it is.
Yeah, and this timeline probably lines up right with 8th MS team about, when he kind of loses it, so that makes sense. The Rawls apparently lost their box last month. Apparently Lautrec, he liked the Rawls. Henry was on good terms with the Rawls. And then we get back to Leo finally, chapter 13. Leo's coworker comes back, knocks out the guy who he's wrestling with, lets Leo escape. Leo finds Monty, who has finished analyzing the disc. And then he has to fake hold up Monty with the gun, but then Monty gives Leo all this information about the disc, which is actually pretty interesting. It has data about the assassination attempt from last year, and it's got a browser on it and a communication protocol for the colony intranet. The browser and the protocol, though, are written in what Monty originally thought was a never-before-seen programming language, but through some digging, he's able to figure out that it actually is a programming language called EDA from before the war, originally used by Federation R&D to control colony and learning type computers. There were some Side 3 scientists that were thrown out of Federation R&D projects after relations with Zeon worsened, and only 5 of those EDA members were left in Zeon, and all 5 were drafted into the army in June and stationed at Granada, including Mario Antonescu, the guy who died in the first chapter. And all 5 of those people, Monty believes, were invited to join MIP. MIP is a Zeon mobile suit weapons developer, much like Zeonic and Zamad, but instead they specialize in megaparticle cannons, mobile armors, and local warfare mobile suits. They made the Big Row, the Big Ruff, the Grublo, the Zachrello, the Zagok, and the Gelgoog beam rifle, as well as the Rick Dom's beam bazooka, Isaac. So there you go.
Wow, yeah.
But they were absorbed by Anaheim in 0083, where they then worked on the Gabura Tetras beam rifle. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah, definitely see the influence of them there.
You can also see the Valkyrie influence here because I looked up what Edda is, and the Prose Edda, also known as the Younger Edda, is the fullest and most detailed source for modern knowledge of Norse mythology.
Oh, interesting.
So this, whoever Rainleaf is, he's been at it for a while with this programming language here. But beyond that, Monty doesn't know what it is. He thinks that Leo's on the right track with maybe what the murder weapon's going to be, and he asks if he should be heading to the Climate Administration Bureau. We don't know what the murder weapon is. I don't believe Leo has told us yet. But then Leo finds Elise waiting with a car, and he makes her drive to a model store, Isaac, in chapter 14.
This got very meta very quickly. I was happy to see it, though. It's done in a good way.
Especially because, Isaac, you have the model that he picks up at the store. He picks up Dozel's Zaku.
That's right. I got it. It's got like that cool Zeonic style trim on like the shoulder pads and different parts of the mobile suit where it's like sort of embossed in gold. It's very beautiful. It's I'm surprised Dozel has it.
It also comes with a really cool heat hawk, like way bigger than normal.
Yeah, I wouldn't even call that a heat hawk. That would, I don't know,
The heat eagle.
the heat predator. Yeah, it's a two-hander.
Leo asks for a certain model, and then he gets a call that someone called Reinhard A will meet him. And he was going there, I believe, to talk to Reinhard C, so now he's confused because Reinhard A is going to call. So he goes to this cafe to meet Reinhard A, and she's a woman who sits back to back with Leo, so they're not even actually facing each other. They're basically talking sort of indirectly, like you see in all spy movies, Isaac. This is very James Bondian.
Right. Yeah, she's got even like a big hat.
Yeah,
you can't really see her full face.
She shows him a picture of Henri, David, and Kycilia standing together at a research department meeting 2 years before the war. Henri was an officer at Side 3, invited by Daikun to be part of the National Armed Forces, but after Daikun died, he remained at the academy as a professor. And David was a cadet. Kycilia was studying to join the Command HQ, which she did join with Giren's influence. And then this woman, Reinhard A, implies that Kycilia and David may have been more than just acquaintances, but David gave up his military career due to being sick. And she then tells us that 1 year ago, when the first attempt on Giren's life was made, David did not arrest one member of the Daikun faction, and that was Henri. It seems David intended to, but he didn't. And after the incident, Henri then was able to create the Capital Defense Battalion. And the woman says, we don't really know who she's referring to, but she says, we call Henri the last Daikun supporter. And Isaac, at this point, we don't know who this woman is. Do you have any idea? Are they implying that it is maybe Kycilia? But I would think that, Leo already met Kycilia earlier in the manga. You'd think he would know her voice. Do you think it's Kycilia? She did leave that meeting with Twanning pretty quickly.
Right. I wouldn't be surprised, but no, I think it is an information broker.
Okay. I noticed that I don't think Kycilia normally wears lipstick, and this woman had some lipstick on. So I don't really know who it is. I did not read ahead, so I don't know if they reveal.
Kycilia is so mysterious. Like, I don't know if you caught this, but she kept her mask on, right, when meeting Twanning, and then she only took it off when he left?
I don't remember.
God, what's the logic?
But that seems like a detail that would matter. Yeah. I'm not sure.
Interesting.
Maybe that is implying that it's Kycilia. Maybe she's getting... Yeah, maybe there's a bad COVID outbreak in the universe trio.
She read human history, and she's like, no, I will always wear a mask.
And then we get, Chapter 15 comes. A man named Kyle Klein from the Mobile Assault Force Information Bureau has arrived to see Henri back at the Colony Defense Department. Klein comes right out with it, Isaac, and he's like, you know what, Henri? I'm realizing now that your name was on a list last year of people that were supposed to be purged after the attempt on Giren's life, but you weren't, and I don't know why. And you just weren't arrested. Henri says, yeah, you know what, I was cleared. I didn't need to be arrested. And then Klein is like, you know what, I don't know what happened, nor do I know what exchanges were made between you and David, meaning that Klein knows about David. And Klein is basically clearly implying that he knows that Henri is lying and up to something. And then he just kind of comes out right out and says it as he's like, hey, look. Oh, but before that, we get a cool reference. Klein says Granada is in a state of chaos because its base commander, Lou Genth, was shot to death in a revolt. I don't know if you noticed this, Isaac, but this is a reference to 0080 when Lieutenant Colonel Killing ordered the use of nuclear weapons, and Rugens in that, or Lou Genth here, the translation, opposed it. Killing shot him, dead. The plan failed, though, when Von Helsing, the other guy, refused to launch nukes. Anyway, that's a 0080 call out.
Yeah.
Klein is worried that Granada is going to fall since there's no base commander and Kycilia is going to Baoku. No one is protecting it from the Gihren faction. And Klein, he's like, you should just begin your uprising. Klein knows that he's in Valkyrie. And then he says Kycilia knows about the matter with Rainleaf. Does this make you love Kycilia? She knows everything.
Yeah, she might not have the power, but she's got ears everywhere, it seems, I love this scene. It was very Kycilia.
It was great because that means she's known for over a year that people are trying to kill this dude. And she's okay with it. She's just like, yeah, let him go.
Well, she took out one brother. What's one more?
Klein is giving some messages from Kycilia. He says that Kycilia believes right now your actions, Henri, would amount to justified self-defense. And he believes that Henri's main fear is what comes after, because they risk splitting Zeon due to the lack of support. But he gives them a disc from Kycilia which contains a recording of Char's meeting with Kycilia when he removes his mask, and Henri instantly recognizes Char as Casval. Kycilia then says people who bring Zeon together do not have to be only of the Zabi family. As long as the Zabi family is part of it, then everything is fine. Kycilia is turning out to be very pragmatic. She's the most capable, well-rounded Zabi. Like, change my mind.
That would be great. Like it would breathe so much new life into Zeon, I think, if there was some type of peaceful cooperative government with Shar and Kycilia. God, I can't even imagine that side story, or that alternate story, I should say.
Yeah, clearly Char was not on board with that, though. I mean, given what happens.
No, he told her no in a very special way.
And then Klein just keeps going. He says, look, when you gain control over Zum City, Granada will remain neutral. But you know what? You might just find some mobile assault force squads coming to your help. And by the way, I'm going to accidentally leave a fully loaded Musai for you to use as you see fit. And he lets him keep the tape of Shar.
Wow.
Like, Kycilia is really laying it all out here, Isaac.
Yeah, they're kind of co-opting Valkyrie to be their pawn in a way.
Yeah, she had to kill Sasoro herself, basically, but she doesn't have to kill this brother by doing anything. I mean, I guess it's easier for her.
No, she'll be able to just walk in and take control of the government, really.
And then he also says that Kycilia, you know what? She plans to at least keep Granada in order, even if Henri fails. And that's kind of going back to what you said about how Granada was really sort of the last stand rather than side 3.
Yeah.
Which is kind of odd, right? I mean, the homeland is not the final domino.
Well, I think that's the nature of colonies. Like, there's no defensible part of a colony, if you think about it, right?
No, that's fair. It's fragile. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you need an Nabawaku to almost really be a magnet for the enemy fleet. But if that falls, then it's kind of over. As opposed to if you're fighting on the moon, well, whoever's attacking you and you're defending they're going to have to put boots on the ground. They're going to have to put their little 0G boots on the ground to try to get inside. And there's no way that's ideal for anybody that's an attacker.
Yeah, it's much more difficult. It's like a space version of Normandy.
Yeah, it'd be worse than that. Oh, boy.
I mean, I hadn't thought about it that way before, but it's actually rather brilliant.
Yeah.
Keeping Granada rather than spending everything on, side 3.
Right.
And then we get the arm joke, Isaac. So at the training ground for the parade, the Capital Defense Battalion troops are starting some stuff with the elite guard or something. Are they just like the local military that they're fighting, Isaac? I don't know.
I think it was elite guard.
Was it? Well,
yeah,
because Phileas comes and sees. Phileas is part of the elite guard. So I don't think it's the elite guard, but I don't know who it is. Anyway, Henry's forces are starting some stuff. They're getting berated by some of Henry's forces. And they're calling their units just for showed and doing exactly what you said, Isaac. They're annoyed that they get frontline, suits when the actual people in the front lines are using old suits. And then someone makes fun of Lance saying, "You will certainly have the upper hand." Oh, I'm sorry. You left your hand on the battlefield, didn't you?
Oh, no.
That guy was Lieutenant Langers. Lance challenges this guy to a battle. And at this point, Isaac, I'm like, oh, we're going to get our first mobile suit battle of this manga. This is the last chapter in volume 2. We've gone 2 full volumes, Isaac, with no mobile suit battles.
Yeah, does this one even count? Because it's friendly on friendly?
Well, that's not only is it friendly on friendly, but just as it started, it's over. It's literally one page. Lance just slices him in half. And Phileas, she rushed down very, very quickly just because she didn't want to miss it. And she's actually wearing a Peasant Project patch. Did you catch that, Isaac? So we get another Peasant reference, which is cool. That was super neat. We talked about Peasant in one of our other episodes, listeners. So if you want to go in the back catalog and hear about it. But she did that because she essentially is confirming Mansfield's hunch from earlier that they are basically lying. They're purposely underplaying their hand here, Isaac. They're sandbagging everybody.
It just shows how well planned this whole plot is. But I'm curious how it goes awry since we know how things really unfold.
Lance does have a cool white Goof custom, which I thought looked fantastic. I don't know about you, but...
It was awesome.
Yeah. Do you like that better than the normal color scheme? Because I have one, but now I'm conflicted about whether I should paint it like the one in 8th MS team or this one.
In that case, I'd say go with Lance.
Oh, all right.
Well,
all right.
I don't know. You'd almost get 2.
I know. It's a cheap one. It's an old kit, so maybe I'll get a second one, but...
Getting 2 would be pretty good. It'd be worth it for Norse and him.
Yeah. They're both cool characters, at least so far. We'll have to see what happens to Lance.
Yeah.
But... Leo then goes to leave, and he says, I got to find a place to stay, but Reinhard A. tells him to look around. And we get this. This is the interesting scene you were talking about, Isaac, about the lights in the colony.
Yeah, the blackout, which kind of threw me for a loop. I was kind of curious. They're mentioning that there's so few people. Transportation's still allowed. You're still allowed to leave Site 3. I thought that was interesting. A lot of people have left to go stay with family on other sides. A lot of people probably went to Granada to get the hell away from Site 3 since they think the nation's going to fall.
Right.
And a lot of homes are empty. So what the government's been doing is causing blackouts so people could see lights on the other side of the colony and not feel alone? Is that how you understood it?
Yeah, that was interesting. That's some deep psychological propping up there.
Yeah, and it's even more interesting because, as we all know, in Side 3, since there are no sort of windows, I should say, on the colony, those huge glass panel sections, since they don't need the solar light reflected in, they just have that giant fluorescent column in the middle, for lack of a better word. So the idea that they would turn it off, or at least turn off in sections, is really interesting. Yeah, and then of course, as we find out later from the information broker, if you think about it, this really has no way to heal loneliness because those homes are empty.
Right, exactly. It also it lends credence to the theory that it was only a matter of time until Zeon lost the war.
Yeah.
Barring some enormous victory. Because they're just running out of people, Isaac.
Yeah. Or the solar ray not being fired early.
Right, yeah. Isaac curses Gihren every day for the solar ray burning out early.
I mean, I might curse it for multiple reasons, but yeah. It also killed Dagwin. Need I remind you?
Yeah, that's true. At Abawaku, Twanning delivers the Zeong data to Kycilia. The Psychomu, though, is off because they haven't found a new type to use it. Kycilia wants to use it, though, even if they lose, so it doesn't fall into the Federation hands, which we saw in Thunderbolt, and it does fall into Federation hands, if you believe Thunderbolt. So she orders the Psychomu turned on. And then 0080 catches another stray, Isaac. She just calls Operation Rubicon stupid. Operation Rubicon was the operation by the Cyclops team to destroy the Alex.
I mean, if you think about it, I can kind of see your point, because Zeon's been nuking colonies left and right?
Yeah.
So the Cyclops team was able to sneak into the colony with a whole mobile suit. It's disassembled in parts. If they just snuck in with a nuke, they probably could have taken out the Alex.
That's true. They should have started with the nuke, and they would have been successful.
Probably, yeah. There's Alex taken care of.
It was also so late in the war. Like, is it really going to matter at that point? I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder how the Cyclops team would have done on the battlefield if they were just told, like, look, no more sneaking around. Just, you guys are a combat unit now.
Yeah, just go get them.
Probably pretty good. They did so well at Alaska.
Well, they had one suit in the Comfort, and they did great, because those Jim Sniper 2 pilots just sucked ass.
I'd like to give the Gym Snipers more credit if they were in, like, space itself and part of a larger pitched battle. We'd see, with regular gyms in front of them, but we'll never know.
So the final scene is in the Valkyrie room. Rainleaf starts the final meeting, and we see now that Kycilia and her team are listening in. So then I guess we get to the whole point of at least the first 2 volumes, Isaac, and that is, who is Rainleaf? And I want to break that into 2 questions. Who does the book want you to believe Rainleaf is? And who do you think Rainleaf is?
Well, that's a tough question. At first I thought it was Kycilia. Did you for a while reading it?
Yeah, so I think there are 3 people that the book is leading you to believe Rainleaf is that are very similar, and that is Kycilia, Cecilia, or David. But I don't think it can be Cecilia if we are to believe that Rainleaf has been involved since the UC 0050s. She's too young for that.
Right. I mean, this would have to be planted way back when, since that one panel that had, like, them in the group picture.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So, like, she's been really playing the long game, being Giren's little buddy.
Unless there have been multiple Rainleafs over the years, and maybe they're just the new one. I mean, I guess you could do that.
Who do you think it is?
I think I know who it is, but I'm not going to say it on this podcast because I don't want to ruin it for someone who wants to go read it.
Oh my god. Well, say it to me, then edit it out.
So I think if you eliminate Kycilia, Cecilia, and David for being too young, we know it's not Henri.
Right.
It's probably not Darcia because he's got other stuff to do.
He's on a list of possible suspects.
I have him on my list of suspects. I agree. Yeah. But I mean, he's off, doing his. He definitely doesn't like Gihren, so that part fits.
Yeah.
Another one that they kind of mention here is Jim Barral, but if you see Origin, I feel like it's pretty clear that he can't be Rainleaf.
Long been dead. Yeah.
So that only leaves who I think it is, Isaac. It has to be. That's definitely where we're headed.
Well, that's a good chance of that. This is a bit of a long shot, but I'd like to even add Dagwin to the list.
Oh, yeah?
For a surprise suspect, You take him out, but not man-to-man, in a way. It's possible.
I like that. I had something similar. I thought a cool twist would be, what if it was Sasuro?
Oh, he's still alive?
Yeah.
No way. There's no way. He's gone. What do you think about the possibility of it being Char? No way.
Well, I think Char has the same problem as Kycilia. He's too young.
Yeah.
Or you could say that maybe, no, he can't have taken over for Daikun. I mean, that wouldn't make sense.
Yeah. Char's also, he's got his hands full. in the field.
Right. He's a busy man.
He's not able to like get on an encrypted communication from his ship.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could say that it's maybe Henri and he's being both people, but I don't. That's kind of like too complicated. I don't think that would be it.
Yeah, boy, that put like a whole new level of paranoia if you pulled that off.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see, listeners, if you've only read volumes 1 to 2, who at this point do you think Rainleaf is? Because I'm wondering like who they think the audience thinks Rainleaf is at this point.
For the longest time, I was with Kycilia.
Yeah, she was one of my main suspects. Yeah, because I mean, I feel like they're leading you in that direction.
Right, it's so Kycilia to do this too.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, she's essentially recruiting everyone to do her dirty work, right?
Pretty much. I mean, they're happy to do it.
My only last real thought here, Isaac, is that, again, there were no mobile suit battles in this, but I loved it, and I think that manga and even to an extent novels are really the perfect medium delivery vehicle for a Gundam story with no mobile suit battles. Because I don't necessarily need to see this animated.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's beautiful to look at. These are very well animated, but it was such a page turner. I'm not sure it'll be everyone's cup of tea that comes looking for something Gundam, but if you love the setting, the lore, the 1 Year War, this is absolutely something you should check out. It's beautiful in terms of like a side story.
I'm on board. I can't wait to read the next 2. I'm a little worried that they're going to be even denser than the first 2, which is going to make making a podcast about it difficult. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. So do you want to rate 1 to 2, or should we just wait until the end?
I mean, I'll give this first half a rating. I really enjoyed it. I recommend it to anybody, like I just said. So I'm going to give this 5 out of 5 Haros.
Wow.
It's that good. It's really enjoyable. Not a lot of complaints about it. I had a really fun time. Lots of little Easter eggs in terms of lore and the setting. How about you, Brian? If you had to give these 2 a rating, what would you give it?
You know what? I should have expected a 5 out of 5 from you, because this is all Zabi's. This is Isaac's. You know, this is his game right here.
My wheelhouse. Yeah.
I think I would give it a strong 8.5 out of 10. My only real complaint about this is that I think maybe Leo himself is actually not that interesting. I think he's more of like the delivery mechanism for this story. He's more of a vehicle.
Yeah.
You know, I think everyone around Leo is more interesting than Leo himself. And I really wasn't buying like the banter that he had with Elise at the beginning. And at that one point, Isaac, I don't know if you felt the same way, but like I wasn't sure if like when he was talking to Lance, like it got a little romantic at that point. I wasn't sure if like they were going to just like break down and like, you know, do it or like what. Like that was a little strange. Did you get that vibe too?
A little bit. I was like, okay, they're pretty close.
Lance is like really giving him the eyes, you know?
Yeah, but they front loaded Elise, I think, to kind of,
did.
You know, so you were like, oh, okay. But then at first I thought like, oh, Elise is like his little sister, but then that wasn't true.
Yeah, I feel like Lance has eyes for Leo.
Well, he's got one hand more than him, so
Lance could use some help.
There you go. Something I noticed about Elise, and I don't know if you caught this, when she's first meeting with him, and they're talking about like, you know, how she's sort of giving him the data out of her own personal interest.
Yeah.
She says that if she's caught as the one that gives him the data, she'll be sent to the front. Did you catch that?
Oh, I did not. I heard she would get demoted. I didn't realize she said get to the front. That sucks.
Yeah, that to me that kind of, you know, even sheds further light on how bad things are in Zeon. They're willing to send women to the front, and you can probably count on one hand the number of Zeon female soldiers you've ever seen.
There have not been many. There was Cadillac.
The woman from 8th MS team.
Yep. That's right, yeah. She was not having a good day either.
That's about it. I guess you can count Shima, but like Shima's not really a grunt. Shima and Cadillac aren't really grunts.
That's true. I mean, we can't count like Lala. Like that doesn't work.
No.
Yeah,
So
there's not very many. That's
Even
interesting.
a woman fears being sent to the front in Zeon. That's how bad things are and how their system is.
Yikes.
Jesus.
That's terrible.
Also, let's see. Oh, when he's meeting with Kycilia, I think she or one of the other bureaucrats asked for like who the source is, and then I think he says that there's a right to remain anonymous in the Principality, and they kind of back off. They nobody pressed him further. I thought that was really interesting too.
Yeah.
So Zeon, as oppressive as it is, there's sort of a mix of some rights that they probably believe make them superior to the Federation. You know?
Right. At least in form. I don't know if in substance, because like
No.
if it really came down to it, wouldn't they just like kidnap him at night, you know, and put him in a bag and vanish him? I mean, they purged all the Daikun supporters, so like I don't feel like that anonymity thing is like gonna hold up. But I do remember that being like, okay, they have some standards here.
Yeah, if he wasn't working to give them more information, they would have tied him to a chair and given him some Ginias juice.
right to the chair with you.
Right. Like, look, we're going to get that one way or the other. Let's see. Yeah. Another highlight, of course, was the gunpla we saw in this Gundam series. We've never seen that in any of the Gundam series, I think.
No, I can't. I mean, outside of Build Fighters, in an actual in-universe thing, no, I don't think so. I thought it was hilarious, though. They have a straight-up model shop. They're just selling real models. It was hilarious. I loved it.
Yeah, all the Zeons. Was it Elise who took him there?
She drove him there, yeah.
Okay, good. Because I'm pretty sure she mentioned that you can get the models and you don't need ration cards.
Oh, she did, yeah.
That also sheds light on how bad things are in the Principality. People are using ration cards, so things are not looking good, despite the announcement they put out with Dozel's deaths. And God, what did they say? They're like, oh, now we got them right where we want them.
He did so much damage with his two-handed heat hawk that, I mean, he did do a lot of damage to his credit.
We lost Solomon, but guess what? We got the enemy on the ropes. The victory's near.
Yeah, I mean, it was a deft use. Like, if you're going to make a meta commentary like that and have a model store, by using the ration card thing, models in this universe are essentially a propaganda piece.
Right, yeah.
And that was great. I loved that.
Yeah, the commemorative Dozel edition.
Yeah, please buy it to help the war. You know, they might as well had a poster in the background that said, Zeon needs you to buy models or something.
What a great look into life in Zeon, which we almost never get in any other content.
No, I can't think of another manga that goes this deep and this specific. By the way, listeners, if you like these first two volumes, the writer of this arc performance, which I'm still confused if that's one person or like a group. I think it might be one person, but I should probably look that up for next time. Arc Performance also writes the much longer manga called The Return of Johnny Raiden. I think that's like 20-something volumes long.
Wow.
So this manga was really good. Now I was looking forward to reading that one before. Now I'm looking forward to reading it even more.
Yep.
20 volumes, I mean, that's a commitment, but
They might be short. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, anything else, Isaac, before we head on out?
I'm excited for the last two volumes of the series, and I think it's going to be a great story overall when we get to the end. I'm very optimistic, and listeners, by the time you listen to this, I hope we'll probably be done with the volumes, but you should absolutely take this as a recommendation to jump in with both feet.
Yeah, and let us know, leave us a comment, and let us know who you thought Rainleaf was, like, as you were reading it. Obviously, you're going to know by the end, but I want to know, do you think the author's intent worked as you were reading it, versus... Right. You can compare it to who we find out who Rainleaf, he or she, actually is at the end. I'm curious if you were all fooled. Isaac will be holding me to my pick to see if I'm right. But
we'll see.
Did my pick cross your mind, Isaac, by the way?
Not really, no. Because obviously we haven't seen your pick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's true. All right, listeners, you let us know. Take us away, Isaac.
All right, listeners, before you go to sleep tonight, stand by your bed. Get on your knees, put your hands together, look up at the ceiling, and hail Valkyrie.
Good night, everybody.